Hello, everybody. Welcome to Browns and Beyond, your home for Cleveland Browns content, NFL content, and other sports content. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you stay locked in with all the latest sports content. And most importantly, drop us a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. All right, boys, here we are on a Thursday night. Had a little bit of turbulence, a little power outage.
Yeah, that was a little freaky, Brad. It's good to see that we're back in business here and ready to talk some Browns football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Steve, how you doing, buddy? What's going on here?
Doing good. Had a power outage here. I'm cooking some food in the dark. It says put a flashlight on. I'm good. I'm chopping away. We got everything out. Only one person left. Everyone else paid, so everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. All right, we're going to get started here, guys. Got some breaking news to start things out. And that is Paul DePodesta is leaving the Cleveland Browns to take on an executive position with the Colorado Rockies. He's going to actually be the head of baseball operations. And, boys, we kind of thought maybe that they would remove Paul DePodesta.
Yeah.
I actually think he had a better opportunity. He might have been job hunting in the respect that, hey, you know what, Jimmy might clean house. Yeah. But he did. He got out of town before, So we'll start with Mr. Dave Greenshield. Yeah. Dave, how did you take the news of Mr. DePodesta taking on that job?
A few thoughts here, Brent. First of all, it's hard to believe he's been here since 2016. Tough to believe that. He's taking over as head of baseball operations for the Colorado Rockies. Pardon me. He's returning to the sport. He was part of baseball for 20 years. I mean, that was always kind of the criticism is he wasn't, when we hired him, he wasn't really a football guy.
He's the money ball guy, athletics.
The analytics and, some of that thing and Moneyball, some of that stuff. He's, made kind of an unconventional move to the NFL, and I think that's why Browns fans were always kind of leery about DePodesta. He was kind of a shadowy figure, and he actually, for a lot of people, was the fall guy. Now, I think there's more than a few people to blame here, so it's going to be interesting to see, more importantly, who Jimmy gets to replace him. I've always wondered how much influence he's had in the organization. I know a lot of people have speculated about that over the years.
Yeah.
I've put a lot more of the blame on Andrew Berry over the years because he's the one in a lot of instances that's picking the groceries and is a big reason that the roster we have today is based on his drafting and a lot of the moves he's made. So it's going to be interesting to see what this means for the Browns going forward. Does this make it more likely that Jimmy may be willing to let people go and let heads roll at the end of the season and clean house?
Yes.
I've been on record as saying I'm not opposed to that. I want to see how the season unfolds. I'm sure that's what Jimmy and fans want to see. But, if it ends up being a long season like a lot of us think it's going to be, maybe this is a sign that heads may be rolling at the end of the season.
Yeah, very well said, Dave. We're going to get to Mr. Steve Retzer. Steve, you seem like you're a happy guy tonight. Even though there was a power outage.
Yes.
I see you smiling over there. You've been waiting for this day for a while, haven't you, about Mr. DePodesta?
I've been waiting for DePodesta to be out for a long time. Yeah. I mean, he works remote from California.
Yes.
I mean, the guy's not even in Cleveland all the time, but he's like the underboss. If this was like a mob setup, you got the mafia, the head of the... He's right underneath. He's above Andrew Berry, above Stefanski. Berry and Stefanski were more like the puppets. DePodesta's the guy. And then he is like mafia because no one can explain his job title. You listen to 92.3 Fan, you listen to Rizzo, other sports guys. They don't know what his job is either. He's very...
Steve, one thing. If I can
under the radar.
If I can steer the car away from Goodfellas here and get it back towards football, how much of a role or how much influence do you think he has in, let's say, free agent moves or draft picks or things of that nature? I mean, I still think the long and short of it is this is Stefanski, Berry, and Jimmy, as far as like we talk about who was the reasoning behind picking Shador or Dylan Gabriel or the players that we have on this roster. How much influence does Paul DePodesta have on that? Because I don't know if he has a large influence when it comes to picking the groceries, to borrow a Bill Parcells.
I think he did. Go ahead. You first, Steve.
I think DePodesta did make the choice. He was ahead of Berry, ahead of Stefanski. He made the call, and Jimmy would even get his his advice before Jimmy would make a final sign off or final decision. I really do think DePodesta was that man of power.
Well, I wonder if his power was more, giving advice to Jimmy on hiring certain people, as opposed to, and then the people that he did hire were making bad decisions on personnel. Like, I'm wondering if DePodesta advised him on hiring Andrew Berry to begin with. Because remember, John Dorsey was here before Andrew Berry. I'm wondering if DePodesta gave him the advice to fire John Dorsey.
I think so. Absolutely.
After the Freddie Kitchens debacle. That's what I'm wondering.
Absolutely.
Is this influence more about the people that are there in Berea than it is about the players that we're putting on the football field? The players that we're putting on the football field have to deal with Stefanski, and I believe have to do with Berry. And to a certain extent, Jimmy, who likes to pick his favorite quarterback from time to time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brenna.
Well, I just think that DePodesta has been involved for a while now, and he is the chief strategy officer. That is his title. And he was the first guy they got. He was the first one they hired, and then Stefanski came later. So he was there for about a decade. Bottom line is, I do feel like he was part of picking the groceries. And it does seem like, I think me and you might have said this, Steve, this last draft they had, DePodesta might not have had his hand in that one as much. Because this past draft?
Yeah. It was
that looked a little bit.
It was a better draft.
Yeah. That looked like that wasn't a depot draft. I could see the analytic baseball guy picking the weird guy. Like, what's that guy? The short wide receiver we had who just retired. I can't remember his David Bell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
or is that his name? Yeah, Bell.
Yeah, Bell. Yep.
Yeah, so
From Purdue.
The point is
receiver,
that's usually what analytic guys do. You know what they do? They pick the guys that no one else wants because of analytics. They don't pick the studs. Like you said, they didn't pick the Big Ten guys. They didn't pick the Michigan defensive end. They didn't pick the Ohio State stud. They never do that. They get cute and they do analytic stuff. I think that DePodesta not having him here, that will be good. But you know what I hope it doesn't mean? Hope that doesn't mean, we'll give Stefanski a shot.
So
without Depot.
Are we? Would you, real quick?
Yeah.
Are we saying that DePodesta could have been behind the biggest decision this franchise has made, which is the Deshaun Watson decision? Do we think he had an influence on
him and Jimmy? I do.
I think he did have a part in it.
Okay.
And it wasn't Stefanski, though.
He was also a part
No, I don't think Stefanski ever wanted
Deshaun
Watson.
DePodesta also hired Stefanski, and he wanted to keep Stefanski no matter what happened.
Okay.
Yep.
And now I feel that Jimmy is taking some power back. He can make his own decisions without dealing with chief strategy officer DePodesta.
Now, Steve has another theory. We and Steve talk about this stuff, and it's hilarious.
Yes.
He's thinking like this nerd Harvard thing. Think about it. Stefanski fits right into there. Barry.
Yes, Barry.
Depot, the nerds. What do you say? The Ivy League nerds?
Yes.
And
now I'm with you.
And now you cut off the snake.
Right.
Depot's the snake, the head of the snake.
Well, get me football guys. I want football guys.
Yeah, you do.
John Dorsey type figure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. That came from a winning organization that has a track record of drafting good football players. That's who I want to be a part of this organization.
A good GM, you don't have to have a chief strategy officer. Have one GM, one head coach, work together, not against each other.
I said years ago, one of the guys that I would have hired, I actually think his son comments for the Browns on Channel 3, Bill Polian. There was a guy that had a track record. He built the Bills of the 90s. He helped build the Peyton Manning Colts for all those years. Somebody.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it's easy to go out and find those guys, but give me somebody that came out of an organization that's a track record.
I actually have I have one more perspective on this that I need to share about the analytic thing. Okay. Here's my take on this. I don't think I'm wrong about this, but you guys can have your perspective.
Yes.
I don't think football is a sport where analytics should be your top guy. You need a Dorsey type, but then I want an analytic guy, but that guy's kind of down the totem pole a little bit. He's just there. I'm going to hit him up for certain things. I'm okay with analytics, but I don't want the analytics guy running my team. I do not want that. I want the Dorsey type. And then now down below the totem pole, you could have like an analytics department or scouting or whatever.
It's a part of a lot of organizations. Let's be fair. It's a part of.
But do you want the nerd guy, analytic guy running your team?
No, I don't. No. I want a football guy.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that's kind of where we're at. Steve, any more final thoughts on Depot before we head into the next topic?
I think that just about wraps him up, guys. I'm glad he's going. Good luck in Colorado, and don't let the door hit you in so long. Salute. I don't want to deal with him anymore. It's a good day. It's a good day, gentlemen.
I know.
Going back to baseball. Yeah.
Yeah. Go back to baseball. All right, we're going to get into our next topic, and that is the most recent Cleveland Browns trade, and we're also going to get into head coach Kevin Stefanski relinquishing offensive play calling duties to Mr. Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. We will start with Mr. Dave Green. So, Dave, get us some insight on that latest trade, and what do you think about Stefanski giving the nod to Tommy Rees as OC?
Yeah, not a real busy week on the trade front. I'll just start with the trade that the Browns did make. They're trading linebacker Joe Tryon Shoyinka to the Chicago Bears, a former first-round draft pick in 2021, NFL draft out of Washington by Tampa Bay. He had 9 tackles in 8 games this season, mostly on special teams. This appears to be a trade for the future, especially considering the 2-6 record. Remember R&D year, so the Browns are probably trying to accumulate draft capital, and I think that's what they're trying to do. So not necessarily a whole lot of big news on the trade front. I do want to get into the play calling situation because that's the big news of the week. I guess up until the Depot news here recently.
Yeah,
but
that was the big news.
Yeah, that Depot news is big, but this is going to could have an effect on the field, maybe significant, although I have my doubts. And that's Kevin Stefanski relinquishing his play calling duties to Tommy Rees. I've said I don't know if this is an upgrade, but we're going to see. Stefanski's been calling the plays, pretty much for a long period of time here. And, what I have to say is him ceding the play calling duties to Rees is a bit of a surprise. I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was going to be tough for him to relinquish. I think we can all agree this is probably overdue. How long have we been bemoaning the play calling? Steve's been saying it
all season.
All season long. Stefanski had been calling plays since he's been hired in 2020 until midway through last season, when then offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey took over a little bit of the play calling. Stefanski then resumed the play calling for the first 8 games of this season. By the way, the offense is currently ranked 31st in total yards per game and 29th in passing yards per game and 30th in scoring offense. How's that working out, guys?
We must have jumped up a spot because last cast I said 32, 32, 30.
It's still bad, Steve. It's still really bad.
You jumped up a spot.
These aren't good rankings, people. This probably has a lot to do with the struggles of Dylan Gabriel. Third lowest passer rating, 75.8. Fourth lowest completion percentage rate in October, 59.4. He's thrown 4 touchdowns with a pair of interceptions this year. And Stefanski, has added that Gabriel will remain the starter. We don't know if that's a good decision. Backup Shador Sanders did not practice Monday and is still hampered by that back tightness. I do wonder how much that injury is playing a part in him not seeing the field. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. I'm interested to see how much this offense changes with Rees, or more importantly, how does it improve under Rees? The 33-year-old Rees was a quarterback's coach at his alma mater, Notre Dame, from 2017 through 2019. Then he was promoted for the offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach in 2020. He went to Alabama in 2023 and was the OC before Nick Saban's retirement. In the 3 years as the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, the team did average 30 points per game and advanced to the college football playoffs in 2020 after posting an undefeated regular season. He has a solid record of getting the most out of his quarterbacks, both at Bama and Notre Dame. Under Rees' guidance, Ian Book finished his Notre Dame career as the winningest signal caller in school history. He finished second in career passing yards, completion, and completion percentage, and passing touchdowns. In 2023, he actually got a lot out of Jade Milroe, who finished 6th in the Heisman Trophy winning voting that year. He had 35 total touchdowns and 23 passing, 12 rushing. And the Crimson Tide won the SEC championship game and made the college football playoffs that year. It's going to be interesting to see how this works for Dylan Gabriel, because that's really the thing.
Yeah.
How does the play calling? Because we've talked about how much we bemoan the dink and dunk offense. Is he going to be more aggressive with letting Gabriel push the ball down the field?
I got a feeling that this is going to be an improvement, and let me tell you why. I feel like Kevin Stefanski, Steve and I have been talking about this for a little while now. He can't handle all the duties of being a head coach and call plays. He just can't do it.
Yeah.
He probably could do it early on when there were the COVID year and all that stuff. he probably could do it a little bit better. Than now, as time goes on, when you're head coach, you have more expectations. Your duties increase. You got to pick the players. You got to do this. You got to do that. Don't forget, you got to manage the defense.
Yeah.
I don't think he's good enough, like a McVay. Actually, does McVay call the plays at the?
Yeah, pretty much.
And so does the guy at the
Andy
Reid.
Yeah.
And then don't forget about the Vikings guy, O'Connell.
O'Connell, yeah.
They all do.
Yeah.
I don't think he's on the level of those guys to do everything.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
When he has a ready-made roster like he had in 2020, he did do some good things. My doubts are him
That's true.
as a
Development.
as a quarterback
Good
whisperer.
call.
I don't know if he can
You're
take
right.
a young quarterback that's drafted and get him to fit in his offense. Again, I've said this before. When he had Kirk Cousins as OC in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins was already an established quarterback in this league. To a great degree, when he got Baker Mayfield, he was already a developed product. All he did was, when he took over from Larry the Cable Guy in 2020, was recenter the offense around the running game, which I do think was a smart move. Although I think a blind man could have seen that. You know what I mean?
There was still times that Nick Chubb didn't get the carries I wanted him to get.
Yeah.
So he still had suspect play calling, but he was given.
But I know what he means.
He was
Right.
dealt a good hand.
Well, yeah.
He dealt a good
Well,
hand.
He does better with a good hand. We said
Right.
that. No, not good with development though.
Because clearly he was an upgrade over Larry the Cable Guy. Because, Freddie was terrible. It was dysfunctional in 2019, Steve. We all remember that.
Yes.
I mean,
You're right.
Again, you cannot tell me a roster that was that talented should have won 6 games in 2019.
Yeah, that was
a wasted season. And for Kevin to come in, get that team to go 11-5, I mean, he did some good things
I
early
wanted
on.
Greg Williams to keep Larry the Cable Guy as your OC.
Sure.
But it didn't happen. They hired Stefanski, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do have to say, I mean, is this the end of the dink and dunk offense? That's really what I wonder. Does he, do they try to throw the ball down the field? Do we see him continue to put an emphasis on Quinshon Judkins in the run game? Do we continue to see the 2 tight end sets with Njoku and Phantom? I believe we may be getting to a tipping point with Dylan Gabriel, by the way. Another game of 3 and outs and turnovers. Would that be it for him as a starter, Brent? I know you have your concerns.
I want to give him a couple games.
Okay.
Just with especially with the Reese thing. But if he doesn't get it together in 2 games, I'm ready to yank him. You got to see how things go with Reese.
He's got to perform in this game.
Especially
he does.
The Jets.
He does, but here's the thing: if he does look
The
like
Jets
he's
just traded their best 2 defenders.
Defensive players, yeah.
You better-
Sauce Gardner and Williams.
At least
But-
compete.
keep in mind, guys, that this offense didn't even look good with Joe Flacco, because the play calling stunk with him too.
That's
so. It just, bottom line is, we got to see what we got. But I kind of think that the Shador game is going to be the not this week, but not the one after, but the one after that.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just in closing, I'm going to wrap this up for you guys. It'll be interesting to see how Reese's play calling looks with Dylan compared to Shador, because I do think we're going to get to a Shador point eventually this season, depending on his health. I'm still a believer it's just a matter of time before he gets his shot. This change, by the way, isn't necessarily a surprise for me. I'm just not sure how much of an improvement we'll see from an offense due to the change. It's worth a shot. Let's see if it helps.
Yeah. Well said, Dave. We're going to get to Mr. Steve Retzer. Steve, I know you're pretty happy about this one as well, about Mr. Stefanski giving up your... These are Steve Retzer type segments today. They're all in his favor.
Steve is for change, and I think a lot of us are for change.
I know.
I've been waiting patiently for both of these moves, guys. So that's why I have a permanent smile on my face for today.
Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely. Steve, go and get into the trade and give us some points on the Stefanski, giving it to Tommy Reese as the OC there. What do you got?
Okay, well, as far as that trade went, Brent, Chicago had one of their defenders got injured and he's out, so they needed what's his name, Shoinka, or say him again?
Joe Tryon.
Yeah, Joe Tryon. Yeah. So he could fit with Chicago, probably fit their style of defense. He didn't really fit our style. Yeah, he came from Tampa Bay. He was better in that Tampa Bay defense. He didn't have him on a lot of snaps.
Well, he was basically playing special teams.
Yeah, special teams.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, you're right, Dave. Yeah, he was basically a special teams player. We didn't really need him. Like you said, we needed more draft capital. So getting a 6th round pick, that's better than 7th, or So at least you got something for basically nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. Let's get into the Tommy Reese situation. It's just yet to be determined if Reese does it from the sidelines or the booth. I don't know if you guys heard anything there.
That'll be interesting. I think he'll probably still remain in the booth.
He'll be in the booth.
When Ken Dorsey was calling plays, I thought he did that last year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, last season Dorsey did do it in the booth. I'm wondering if Jimmy said he will like to see a change in the play calling because Stefanski usually doesn't like to give it up. I mean,
right.
The goal to improve the offense's performance and get better collectively, Stefanski will still be there to help him any way he can. That's what Stefanski said. So he's still going to have to sign off from Stefanski, but Stefanski's going to have to give him some leeway to let him do something different. We can't just see the exact replica of the same thing, you know?
That's right.
You're going to have to see a little bit different product out there. This is usually not a good sign, especially since Stefanski got what he wanted. He wanted his own hand-picked quarterback. Check that box.
Right.
He wanted his own to run his own offense, which happens to be 7-yard passes with dinks and dunks.
Yeah.
With heavy use of tight ends. Check that box off. It's not working.
Right.
I think I think Stefanski avoided hiring a big name OC to avoid his job getting taken. That's just my opinion. Reese has never called plays in the NFL. However, like you said, Dave, he did do it for Alabama and Notre Dame.
Right. That's the thing, is adjusting from being a college OC to a pro OC.
Yeah.
That was my leeriness here. I do wonder how much influence Stefanski's going to have here. He's still the head coach. And then I will say this last point about Stefanski relinquishing it. And I think this is true. I saw this with kind of Ryan Day at Ohio State. It took him a while for him to relinquish it. And the only reason he relinquished it is his mentor, Chip Kelly, came in and was able to he was willing to give it to him for the play calling.
Sure.
But with Stefanski, and I think this is true with a fair amount of coaches, I'm not trying to give Stefanski a pass, but I think this is true with a lot of coaches. I think coaches whose calling card and the reason they got the job was because of play calling, they want to hold on to that. They know in the back of their mind, hey, I got the job because of this. I should continue to do this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think that was still in the back of Stefanski's mind. I could be wrong.
And I just don't think he can handle all the duties of being a head coach. And I from my understanding, it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It is a ton of work, a lot of hours, a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, but
the offense is only averaging 15.8 points per game.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Reese gets Jerry Jeudy more involved like he did last year with Winston and Jeudy. I'm hoping for down the field passes. That would be a good start. John Greco, former offensive guard, was on 92.3 The Fan and said when asked about the change, it's desperation.
Yes.
When you're in that room, the obvious becomes a reality. You have a heightened sense of awareness that is the next attempt before people start getting fired. Greco was on some bad Browns teams, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
They're sticking with Dylan Gabriel, who has played awful all season long. I think they want to give a game with Reese and Gabriel.
Right.
I truly think that this is a change that, is going to be made for Shador. When Shador and Reese work together eventually, it gives Reese a practice game with Gabriel, who isn't the answer, and it gives the fans and the media finally what we want to see.
Let me ask you this. Let me throw out one thing with the Gabriel situation. If Gabriel wins and the Browns win in a Miami Dolphins, Jets, or Green Bay Packers kind of way, which is they get turnovers, and Gabriel throws for 135 yards and a touchdown, and he looks at best mediocre, he's still going to remain the starter. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So we're still another week into Dylan Gabriel, but the reason the offense might not look good, it's the defense that wins the game this week, like it did against the Packers, like it did against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Maybe we,
this thing keeps prolonging.
We keep prolonging before Dylan goes to the bench. So that may be something to watch out for this week, because I do think if the Browns win, it's going to be very similar to the way they beat the Packers and beat the Dolphins. But just a thought on that.
Guys, I think Stefanski would have ruined Shador if he did have the play calling for him. I feel at ease that most likely when Shador gets his chance, it will be with Reese making the calls.
Yes.
Many think Reese can't do it better than Stefanski. I beg to differ here, guys.
Okay.
I feel like anyone could do it better than Stefanski. Stefanski may be ready to see I told you so if Reese fails. He kind of likes to do that. Like, I told you so.
So for you, Steve, this is based on I'll take anything over Stefanski. It's not because of Tommy Reese's genius as an offensive
I'm feeling like that.
Okay.
But I do like that he's worked with these college players like Milroe and some of the other guys you mentioned.
Yeah.
So Shador, fresh out of college, I'd like to see them together. That's really what I was looking. I'm looking forward to that more than I am with Dylan and Reese.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then anyway, Stefanski felt that way in the due time after Ken Dorsey. It was kind of like I told you so, so he took it back. I don't want that to happen. I'm hoping this will work out and let Reese keep it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm ready for sure that the Shador era with Reese. The defense can play. Time will tell, guys.
All right, well said, Steve. We're going to get into our next item of business. That is the game of the week.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a game of the week recap here. And we will start with Mr. Steve Rutzer back at it. Steve, how'd you do on your game of the week, buddy?
How'd you do on your game of the week, Steve?
Well, guys, I wasn't looking too hot in this one. The Steelers beat the Colts with a score of 27-20. I was wrong on this one.
Yeah, Steve.
That Colts pick stings. It was a big swing, but the Steelers defense came to play and delivered one of the biggest upsets of the week against the red-hot Colts team. Guys, they were 7-1.
Well, I'll tell you what, that Steelers front seven and defense, which we talked about, was not looking like the top-notch Steelers defenses of the past, finally came to play. They got some turnovers. They were able to contain the run for the most part this week. Danny Dimes had a very rough week this week. I still have my doubts about the Steelers going forward. I think this is about, the Colts maybe being a little bit off this week and having some turnovers. What would they have? 5 turnovers in that one, Steve, or something like that?
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yes, they did, guys. The turning point was the turnovers.
Yeah.
The single most important factor was the Colts committed. It's actually 6 turnovers.
6 turnovers. Wow.
3
okay, was
interceptions,
worse.
2 fumbles by Daniel Jones, and a muffed punt.
Oh, wow.
They had only 4 turnovers total coming into this game. That's pretty. It was a momentum killer. What was that? The T.J. Watt strip sack and recovery on Daniel Jones in the second quarter.
Yep.
After the Colts had a 7-0 lead and converted a fake punt, completely flipped the game's momentum. The Steelers turned that and subsequently turnovers into easy points, guys. The Steelers scored 24 points directly off those 6 giveaways, and that's the ball game. The Steelers, they had a vintage performance. They contained the run, so they stopped Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
The Steelers defense absolutely bottled up. Yeah, he was the leading rusher, guys.
Right.
He was held to 45 yards on 14 carries. Forcing the Colts to be a one-dimensional was key, guys.
Well, that front seven of Highsmith, Watt, you mentioned Watt having a big play, Hayward, those guys that, those Pro Bowl caliber level players, highly paid players. We're talking about how much the Steelers have dumped into that defense. It finally looked like a Steelers defense that we thought we'd see earlier in the year. So, yeah, they were making big plays, especially against an offense that was looking that good coming into the game.
Yep. And the pressure on Daniel Jones was relentless, resulting in 5 sacks and forcing him into crucial mistakes. Jones was under duress all afternoon, guys. Shout out to the Steelers defense, like you just said, Dave, for stepping it up, especially rookies and new key additions like Peyton Wilson, interception and a tip pass.
Yep.
And the recently acquired safety Kyle Duggar, who played a huge role despite short time with the team. Gosh, for the Colts guys, their offense, just a rocky day.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones had his roughest outing of the season. While some interceptions were tipped, his decision-making and ball security, 2 fumbles, crumbled under the Steelers' pressure, guys. The Colts actually outgained the Steelers in total yards, 368 to 225. Isn't that something? Which highlights how much the turnovers negated their successful drives. They converted an impressive number of 4th downs early on, but the mistakes simply piled up too fast. The Steelers were opportunistic, capitalizing heavy on short field gifted by the Colts' mistakes, leading to higher point per drive average despite fewer yards. It's okay. If you pick the Colts, they were 7-1. That's my opinion.
No, I thought they were playing great coming in. This offensive line to get dominated like this, I thought the Colts also had one of the better offensive lines in football, but it just shows you how legit talented that front seven is. So,
they were 7-1, guys, and NFL's top-rate offense coming into the game.
Yeah.
The score of this is a loss, and it's a simple one. The Colts beat themselves, guys.
Well said.
Well said, buddy. We're going to get into the next, get in Mr. Dave Greenshield on the game of the week. Give us your game of the week. I think you were a little bit, you had a decent week, didn't you, buddy?
Decent week, my friend. I believe that's 3 in a row, gentlemen.
Good job, Dave.
I'm not bragging or anything, guys. I'm not bragging. The Broncos rallied to beat the Houston Texans 18-15 Sunday to extend their winning streak to 6 games. They improved to 4-0 this season in games where they trailed entering the fourth quarter. By the way, is Bo Nix becoming the next John Elway? I mean, well, this is, by the way, and we know Brent's a big Elway guy. He's one of his 2 favorite quarterbacks of all time, along with Peyton. But I have to say this. Elway would be like this. He would look terrible for 3 quarters, and then he would come alive in the fourth quarter. And he would find a way to pull out last-second victories. I think we as Browns fans kind of remember that all too not so fondly, Steve. No, I don't want to go there as far as trying to make that, that comparison. But Bo Nix has come up big in fourth quarters. We saw it against the Giants, and then we saw it again this week. Nix couldn't do much in the first 3 quarters against Houston's top-ranked defense. He would finish 18 of 37, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So, again, his numbers weren't great. Nix couldn't do much early, but he was able to hit R.J. Harvey for a 27-yard TD pass with 12:28 in the fourth quarter. A Bo Nix pass to Troy Franklin got the 2-point conversion to tie the game at 15. This was, by the way, another tough loss for the Texans. It didn't help that C.J. Stroud sustained a concussion, in this one. He was hit at the end of a slide early in the first quarter, pardon me. By the way, he's been ruled out this week against the game against Jacksonville.
Davis Mills. Oh, man.
Yeah, your MVP.
I couldn't stand watching him a couple of years ago, and he's got to start again, Dave.
We got bad news for your MVP candidate here.
My MVP is out.
Yeah, I know. Both our MVPs, me and Brent and Joe Burrow, I believe, to start the season as our MVP. Boy, injuries have been rough to both of our MVP picks. The Texans struggled to move the ball with Davis Mills at quarterback after Stroud's injury. He would finish 17 of 30 for 137 yards, no touchdowns. Houston was 0 for 3 in the red zone and converted just 3 of 17 on third down. They punted 6 consecutive times after making a field goal to make it 15-7 on their first possession of the second half. The Texans had to settle for 5 field goals. The rushing game continued to be non-existent, averaging 2.8 yards per carry. They also gave up 4 sacks to that really good Denver pass rush. Nico Collins did end up with 7 catches for 75 yards for Houston after sitting out last week. So, again, he continues to be one of the best offensive weapon in that offense. The more I look at this offense, it's lacking in a few areas. The offensive line may be the worst in the NFL, and they really haven't developed a very good number 2 wide receiver, opposite of Nico Collins. The tight end's a solid player, but they just, whether it be Christian Kirk or whoever they've tried as their number 2 hasn't worked out. Remember, Tank Dell's had injuries.
Yeah, they get injured.
Stephon Diggs, was a bust a year ago for them. So I think this is a Houston team that really needs to make some moves in the offseason to look at wide receiver and offensive line if this team is really going to make a move in years to come. Yeah, I think they just need to put a little bit more around C.J. Stroud. This was a defensive struggle as expected. Both teams were held to under 300 total yards in offense. The Broncos would take a 7-6 lead with 4:32 in the second quarter after a 7-play, 70-yard drive that culminated with a 30-yard Nix to Sutton TD pass. Houston regained the lead with a 38-yard field goal with less than 2 minutes left in the first half. Michael Bandy fumbled a punt with 40 seconds left in the second quarter, recovered by Jalen Smith. Houston cashed in on the air with a 40-yard field goal to push the lead to 12-7 at halftime. After the Texans tied the score at 15 in the fourth quarter, the Broncos would get the ball with 50 seconds remaining on their own 33-yard line. A 25-yard scramble by Nix got them to the Houston 39-yard line. J.K. Dobbins followed with a 9-yard scamper and a 9-yard run by Nix that set them up for the game-winning field goal. Will Lutz made a 34-yard field goal as time expired to give the Broncos the win. R.J. Harvey had 5 catches for 51 yards in the score. That made him the first rookie to have a touchdown catch in 3 straight games in franchise history.
Bo Nix and R.J. Harvey, they did quite a connection.
Yeah.
Right, Dave, these last few games.
Well,
I see them on the highlights. They're playing great together.
Well, Harvey's been a solid rookie. It's, again, the weapons are pretty solid in this offense. The Dobbins, Harvey backfield, they were without Marvin Mims this week. You look at Mims, you look at Sutton, you look at Troy Franklin. They've got a good group of receivers. Obviously a top 5 defense. You can see it just really comes down to Nix. And you see a lot of his inconsistency over the course of the year, but he's come up big in these fourth quarters lately. This was a hard-fought win by the Broncos, who improved to 7-2, leading the AFC West. I believe somebody here picked them to win the AFC West before the start of the season. I'm not going to say who that guy was, but I digress.
You toot your own horn, buddy, a little bit?
Just a little bit. By the way, the Texans fell to 3-5 in third place in the South Division behind the Colts and the Jags. Some guy, by the way, I'm not going to say who, picked them to win the division and go to the AFC Championship game. I forget who that guy is. Maybe you could help me out on that one, Brent.
Oh, my God.
For the
Did you guys change places again?
I know. I felt like we're trading places.
It was a tough one.
Right.
For the Texans, this was another tough home loss. We'll need to see about Stroud moving forward. As I mentioned, the concussion. How long will he be out? Again, the offensive line continues to struggle in both pass pro and run blocking. This could be one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive line in the NFL. It's going to be a real uphill climb for the rest of the season. Again, that AFC Championship prediction, Steve, not so good, buddy. As for the Broncos, this team is gaining more confidence in their quarterback, I believe. The Week 3 loss to the Chargers was a low point. We watched that game together, Steve. He has rebounded, fairly well.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. The numbers aren't overwhelming. He's 17th in the NFL in QBR, but he has proven to be clutch. He's making plays in the fourth quarter when his team needs it. Again, I picked them to win the division. Nix has been the key so far. He's been making plays. By the way, thanks, Bo, for 3 in a row.
Wow. Well said, Dave. Brent, we're going to get into my game of the week. And
How'd that work out, Brent?
It didn't go so well. Me and Retz are on a losing streak here.
Not so good.
We got. You're on top of the mountain, and me and Retz are. We're not doing so good.
Not so much.
Dave, feeling himself just a little bit. All right, a little bit. It was the Commanders and the Seahawks. My prediction on that was just going to be the Commanders taking that one 27-20.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
By the way, tough loss for your side chick.
Yeah. Daniels didn't do good. We'll get right into it. The Commanders fell in a decisive 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks within the game's overall narrative, dominated by a stellar offensive performance from Seattle and unfortunately a familiar situation for Washington. Seattle Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold shredded the Commanders' defense, throwing for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns before being relieved late. For the Commanders, quarterback Jaden Daniels completed 16 of 22 passes, 153 yards, 1 interception, and he had a little bright spot on the ground with 51 rushing yards and a touchdown, marking his 3rd straight game with a rushing score. However, his performance was hampered by relentless pressure as he reportedly pressured over 50% of his dropbacks. Yeah. The biggest takeaway and potential season-altering event was Daniels leaving the game in the fourth quarter with a left elbow injury after a sack. The injury is feared to be a dislocation, and he was ultimately escorted to the locker room with a cast on his arm, immediately raising questions about his availability for the rest of this 3-6 season.
It's going to be bad. Daniel Quinn was actually taking responsibility for that after the game, and having him out there in that situation.
I know.
And that was I saw the injury, and it was a nasty piece of business, guys. I saw the replay. That Seattle pass rush has been legit. I know that, I bemoaned how bad the Houston offensive line was, but, when they see blood in the water, they could devise some interesting blitz packages to get after the quarterback. And I have to say, this also says a lot about Seattle. I think they're legit, guys.
I think, Retz, you said that too.
They are. Absolutely. And Sam Darnold,
yes,
he's on top. I mean, he's looking better than almost every quarterback in the NFL right now.
Well, the only other one I'd put up there would be like a Danny Dimes.
Well, they're both.
Those two were the ones that came out of, they overachieved.
Well, I agree. You know what's, but you know what I think was happening with Sam Darnold. I have to say this, and I was wrong. I picked him to regress this season after getting out of Minnesota. I thought the Sam Darnold we saw against the Lions at the end of last season, and that we saw in the playoff game against the Rams, would be the Sam Darnold that we would see going forward. But as it turns out, Seattle's been a really good situation. Clint Kubiak, their OC, is doing a really good job. Jackson Smith-Njigba has developed into one of the better receivers in the NFL.
He's one of the best in the game.
You know, if they can get a little bit more running game going with Walker and Charbonnet, this team is legit. I really like the parts on their defense. I'm not saying this is a Legion of Boom kind of defense they put together, but they're pretty solid. They can generate a really good pass rush. They do a really good job of scheming up pressure to get after quarterbacks.
And Mike McDonald's kind of a sleeper coach. He's not a bad coach. Defensive minded, right?
Exactly. You know, 49ers and Rams got a big matchup this weekend. They're going to be in this division till the end of the year. It's going to be a real race. So.
All right. We're going to get into the next segment, wrap us up here, and that'll be the bold prediction review. We will start with Mr. Dave Greenshield. Dave, how'd you do in your bold prediction?
I think fairly well. Let me put it out there. I had Caleb Williams going for over 300 yards with multiple touchdowns. He threw for 280 and 3 touchdowns in the wildest game of the week. A 47-42 win over the Bengals. By the way, the Bengals are involved in like Big 12 games nowadays. Everything is 38, 35, 42, 41. It's crazy.
Do you think the Browns and the Bengals should consolidate forces and have the greatest team on earth?
A friend of mine sent me a text this week. Imagine if you could put the Bengals offense and the Browns defense together.
Super Bowl.
There you go. Then you'd be that Super Bowl Super Browns would make sense, Steve.
World beaters.
I just have to say, the top candidate, it was the top candidate for Game of the Week for me. A Caleb Williams, Joe Flacco shootout, by the way, in the jungle, no less. By the way, Williams did hit Colston Leveland for a 58-yard TD pass with only 17 seconds left. That was a crazy play for them to get a 47-42 win. And that was after the Bengals came back from 2 scores down to take a 42-41 lead in this game. It was insane. It's no coincidence, by the way, Williams' 2 best games this year against the lousy Dallas defense and Cincinnati defense, by the way, guys. Not a coincidence. I'm still not a Caleb Williams believer. He's got to do it more consistently. I think, by the way, that's the thing for Bears fans to watch. I don't think this team is a playoff team, but can he consistently get better over the course of the season? Ben Johnson, the new coach, is brought in to do that. He's got some talent around him. Oh, I don't know. What do you guys think? 280 yards, 3 touchdown passes.
I'm going to give you the win on that.
He gets the win.
Okay.
I got it.
I'm going to let you guys decide.
I want to determine that.
He gets the win.
I'm going to give you the win on that.
Gosh, not a bad week, Joe.
Good week for you.
Turning around, Dave. All right, we're going to get to Mr. Steve Retzer to wrap us up. Steve, how'd you do in your bold prediction, buddy?
All right, guys. My bold prediction was that Trevion Henderson would rush for over 100 yards and lead his team to victory. The Patriots got the win over the Falcons, but Henderson did not reach 100 yards. He had 14 carries for 55 yards.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Mike Vrabel doesn't run the ball more often.
Yeah.
And Stevenson was out. They like to run Drake May a little bit. You guys know that. May has wheels when he needs to. Terrell Jennings, he had 11 rushes for 55 yards. It looks that Mike Vrabel is going to split time for his running backs. As of now.
Well, see,
he's not going to have like a feature back, Dave. Isn't that kind of weird?
A few things.
Going to do it.
There's been some question about the Patriots' offensive line play. But, you know, I've been reading a little bit about it. I think a lot of the sacks that May has been taking so far this year have been more on him holding the ball in certain situations. You know, they went out, obviously drafted Will Campbell, tried to improve their offensive line. I was a firm believer they needed another offseason to maybe build up that offensive line a little bit more. That's why I wasn't as big on that 11-game win prediction, although you're looking good there, Steve.
Yes.
But because I thought Vrabel and the crew would need another offseason, maybe a receiver, offensive line, to put more talent around May, obviously, Steve. The Henderson thing, I've never felt he was an every down running back. I never felt he was a 20-carry-a-game running back. He wasn't necessarily that at Ohio State. I think they kind of know that. You know, I thought he might have been in the doghouse after that fumble against the Browns in the red zone last week, too, Steve.
But he had 75 yards rushing against the Browns, but there was a couple that he broke away, right?
Yeah, I just thought of any OC that would find the right way to utilize him, it would be Josh McDaniels.
Right.
You know, in this offense. And, you know, I mean, to me, I still think he's a better alternative to Ramondre Stevenson. You know what I mean? And
I think so too. And he was doing a majority of the kickoff returns.
yeah.
But I guess he didn't do the kickoff returns in this game, so I thought he would add more carries, therefore more yards. That's why I picked it.
That's kind of the last element on this team. If they could get a little bit more running game, they could be really
A
dangerous.
little dangerous in the playoffs.
Yep.
Well said, guys. Let's go around here for some final thoughts. Dave, give us some final thoughts.
Yeah, a little bit busier of a week than we thought we'd be with some Browns news, the Depot news that came in today, and obviously the play calling. Not necessarily surprised about Stefanski relinquishing the play calling duties. As I mentioned earlier, some interesting games. By the way, this week we had some good football games this week. By the way, I think this is going to be a really good week of football, so I'm excited to talk about that. We'll get into that on our next cast.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, guys. Well, it's a good day for me because I like that Tommy Reese is taking over that play calling, and even better news, Dee Podesta is out.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to see what the Browns will do and what Jimmy will do. Will Stefanski go get through the rest of the season as the coach? I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, it'll be interesting to see, guys. Yeah. Looking forward to watching football Sunday, though.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm looking back.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the Browns do too. Depot is gone, and the fact that they're going to have a play calling and a fresh perspective. I just don't think Stefanski, because of I feel like his all his responsibilities he has as a head coach. I don't think he's given it his best effort as the OC.
You think this will be better for Dylan?
I do. I think it's going to be better for everybody.
Okay.
And I'm with Steve. I don't think I would have wanted to see Shador with that Stefanski play
Not
calling.
with Stefanski. No.
I don't see that going well. I noticed that actually, if you go back to the Flacco games when the Ravens, you remember the Ravens game?
Sure.
I didn't think he played. I don't think Stefanski did well in that game. And he was putting Flacco in the gun way too much. He wasn't mixing it up.
Yeah, for me, it was the Minnesota game where Stefanski finally lost me.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was more the time management and situational play calling when they had a chance to run out the clock and put that game away before punting to the Vikings, who drove the field. And then his use on the timeouts towards the end of that game just totally lost me. And I think he let a game slip away that he shouldn't have. And, again, I have my doubts about his ability to develop a young quarterback. I just do.
That is true. He is kind of one of those guys that likes and also, wouldn't you say the 2023 roster was kind of more ready-made, more veterans, less rookies. So they had Flacco. So that was better for Stefanski. I don't think Stefanski does well with this rookie kind of class. And
well, I still think it was that 5-game stretch by Flacco.
Sure.
And I think the other thing is they had one really good wide receiver that year, and Cooper had very good. That was Amari Cooper's last good year in the NFL.
Again, more of an established team versus what you got now.
I felt Flacco almost did it himself. Like, did Stefanski make those play calls?
I know.
Well, they did win a couple games with like a P.J. Walker and a Dorian Thomas.
Yeah, he gets some credit.
They did have to do a little bit there.
I think Dave is onto something about this developing of players where certain coaches can do that. McVay would be one of them. But Stefanski, he's got to kind of have
Kevin O'Connell's looking pretty good. J.J. McCarthy.
Right.
Learning.
Developing. Yeah, that's true.
But Stefanski's not developing quarterbacks. These other guys are.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a guy that's going to be real coveted. If he ever decides to leave USC with his track record of developing quarterbacks, Lincoln Riley, who had Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma, who had Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, who had Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, and had Caleb Williams at USC. That's the type of guy that NFL teams would be looking for because of his ability to develop the position.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well said. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.